Cool. Israel settlers attack IDF troops in the occupied West Bank. Now, I imagine there's a lot more story to this. In an unprecedented development, the settlers attacked their own army. Haaretz reported. Now, I tried to verify that. It says police detained 21 anti-government protesters in Tel Aviv. They used a water cannon to disperse the protests. Now, this is in Tel Aviv, though. I don't see where that's necessarily true. Here it is. Settlers attack soldiers helping Palestinian shepherds looking for stolen goats. The soldiers insisted the settlers get back in their car and leave, but they ignored them. One shoved the soldier, and in response fired in the air as a warning. Wow. If this isn't the most militarized place ever, I don't know what is, man. Like, that's the equivalent of, like, cops getting in your face, and instead of, like, beating the shit out of you, they just start shooting in the air. Like, I don't think that's a thing. Another settler yelled at him in reply, "Did you shoot, traitorous son of a bitch?" Wow. Dude, that is pretty bananas. Alright, so here's the story as far as the Hindustan Times reporting. Yeah, this is 2 stories. That's 3 stories, actually. Israel strikes kill dozens as fierce clashes continue in Gaza. What clashes? I mean, yeah, I mean, if you're talking about the IDF getting smoked, then sure. By dudes that are popping up out of the ground. But as far as this is just bombings on people, man. Now, what video is this? This video and this flame, whatever that is, man. That had to have come from somewhere. I don't know if this is stock footage or what. Or if this is footage from the incident or not. So settlers were helping a Palestinian look for their goats. But yeah, that's also true. Okay, I mean, it's not that dramatic, brother. Yeah, this is the protests that have been going on. Is this just a longer video of that? Yeah, they usually repeat the same video like 20 times, right? Yeah, I mean, that's what the protesters have been doing, is demanding the resignation of Netanyahu, as everybody should be. Great. Fantastic. What about the bombings? IDF had launched more than 70 strikes on civilian homes. Man, it's still going on. Even though our news in the United States is not talking about this. Maybe I need to turn it down. Yeah, it doesn't seem like we're getting a lot of information here. But we'll get to that. So yeah, settlers attack Israeli soldiers looking for their stolen goats. I'm sorry, helping Palestinian shepherds look for their stolen goats. And then they get into it with the IDF. I'm surprised the IDF did not murder somebody right then and there. That seems to be their MO pretty clearly. In other news, U.S. military's confirms huge damage hit. So a 30-kilometer long oil spill, chemical leak. I imagine this is all from the ship that they hit, that is partially sunk right now. The ship's fertilizer shipment was also a concern. Oh no. Yeah, that could be a problem. I didn't know this ship, yeah. Iran backed Houthi terrorist attack the Ruby Mar. Yeah, I know. It's a UK ship, all that. So it's carrying 41,000 tons of fertilizer. From my understanding is when I went to go see what the ship what's going on with shipping, yeah, what the ship is going on. This guy's channel, in this video, he talked about what was going on with that, talking about the ship that's been partially sunk. He's a lot more informative than anything else that I've seen. But I did watch this yesterday or the day before. He was talking about everything that's been going on in the Red Sea. Look at some of those numbers that are coming. And how everything's being affected. But yeah, that ship is partially sunk, and it's a pretty big issue. I'm not surprised to see a response from the United States and the UK as far as airstrikes. Now, they're selling this as the 4th round of joint airstrikes. That's not true. If you watch the press briefings by the Pentagon and by the White House representatives, they mentioned that they've already, as of the 20th, 4 days ago, they had done 32 strikes. So this is bullshit. Thanks for that. Maybe a round, I guess. I don't know, but depends on how you're breaking that down. You know, they always use very specific wording to break down how things aren't that bad.
Strikes on at least 18 Houthi targets inside Yemen. This is the 4th round of coalition strikes in retaliation for attacks by the Iranian-backed militants on international cargo.
They always have to mention that they're Iranian-backed, that they're the Houthi rebels, not make sure that it's not actually saying that we're striking Yemen, even though we are striking Yemen. And then make it clear that this is just some terrorist group. It's not the actual country, even though our actions have basically unified the rebel groups with the government, and it's an issue that's backfiring.
Ships and U.S. warships in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden.
That was it? 20 seconds? They give you 20 seconds of this shit, dude. Anyway, this guy had a 30-minute video. Yeah, he talked about all the container ships, how there's more container ships than there are. What kind of ship was this? This is like it's a tanker, I think.
Retaliation for attack.
So that's an issue. They make more container ships than they do anything else. He talked about the role of Iran. And actually, he went and said that a ceasefire is necessary.
On January 9th.
Hold on. Actually, I want to go to that part of the script. God damn, he posts all of his credits. Come on. Cease. No. Fire. No. Okay. He said it. Anyway. Source, trust me, bro. But yeah, that's what's been going on with the Red Sea. That ship was partially sunk. Everybody believed that it was going to be sunk because of how it was sitting like that. That looks pretty sunk to me. What he said was the engine room has been flooded. And the engine room is flooded, so the boat's inoperable. It's not going anywhere. Yeah, that's a problem. I imagine you have to get the water out of the engine room and then somehow figure out how to not let that ship sink. Otherwise, everything's toast. So as far as Al Arabi is going, Al Arabi? I don't know how to pronounce these things. Also, I'm sick. There was the American prisoner exchange plan, the release of 40 Israeli detainees. This seems to be like a plan that is being worked on. Let me see if I can get translation on here. Closed captions. Yeah, here you go. The American plan related to prisoner exchange deal between Hamas and Israel includes the release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners in exchange for the release of 35 to 40 Israeli detainees, including civilian, women, soldiers, and men over the age of 50, in addition to the sick, like me. When the number of Palestinian prisoners who will be released in exchange will be okay, it doesn't say. Maybe it's a translation issue. So it seems like there is some sort of ceasefire that is being worked on. Or a prisoner, hostage, I would say prisoner exchange. But the hostages that are being held in Israel, and also the hostages that are being held in Gaza, there seems to be something that is being worked on there. Hopefully that comes to a head soon. All of my titles are gone, and that sucks. Fantastic. Can I do a refresh? Cool. Now I lost the translations. Translate to English. There we go. There is an American conviction that contributing the war at the same level will lead to the explosion of the region. So it appears like everything that we're doing is not going the way that we want it to. The occupation forces stormed various areas in the West Bank. That I did see. It seems like there are cities that are being run. They're basically doing their hit squad thing, where they go into particular cities, either kill or kidnap somebody, and then leave the area. As far as the IDF is concerned, that seems to be their MO there in the West Bank. But yeah, it seems like there is a potential ceasefire that's coming up. I think that's important. All right, so let's get to the mainstream media in the U.S.
Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air. The showdown in the South Carolina primary. The results just coming in. Donald Trump versus Nikki Haley. Voters waiting in long lines. The polls predicting another triumph for Trump, but Haley vowing to stay in the race. I
don't know. I think this was right before the results came out.
Former President Trump is once again facing criticism, this time over his recent comments claiming his criminal cases and mugshot are helping him win over black voters. Nikki Haley calling it disgusting. Rachel Scott with late reporting in South Carolina, and our political director Rick Klein at the Maps with a reality check for Haley's path forward.
This dude did not say that.
News tonight
What
in
a
the Israel-Hamas
dumbass.
war. Progress reported in ceasefire talks. What's
Okay.
in the new framework?
Hey, they're on it.
How it could affect the American hostages still in Gaza. Israel's prime minister outlining his plans for when the fighting stops. And what we're learning about new U.S. airstrikes against Houthi rebels. Marcus Moore in Israel tonight. An arrest in the murder of a nursing student at the University of Georgia, attacked on her morning run, and what police are calling a crime of opportunity. It's the first homicide on that campus in decades. What we're learning about the suspect, a native of Venezuela, and his brother, who's accused of using a fake green card.
Oh, illegal Mexicans from Venezuela. I knew it.
The future of in vitro fertilization.
Everything
Some
Trump
Republicans
said was
and
true,
Democrats
brother.
both scrambling to protect IVF after an Alabama court ruled frozen embryos should be considered children. The Chief Justice citing God's will in his opinion. Several clinics in the state suspending IVF treatments, and what the court's ruling could mean for other states. The war in Ukraine now entering its third year. Once thriving cities reduced to rubble by Russian attacks. Ukraine's morale being tested, its military and defenses stretched thin as American aid remains stalled in Congress. James Longman reports from Ukraine. A daring rescue caught on video, a building up in flames. New York City firefighters lowered by ropes making multiple rescues. And America Strong tonight, the happy tales in this first grade reading program, how the students and some precious puppies are helping each other.
Funny how they don't have these stupid ass stories
From ABC News
individually
World Headquarters in New York,
available.
This is World News Tonight.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday night. I'm Wade Johnson. We have breaking news as we come on the air. Former President Donald Trump and Nikki Haley facing off tonight in South Carolina's Republican primary. And based on exit polls, ABC News is projecting Donald Trump has won, defeating Nikki Haley.
Bro, they like released the exit polls as soon as like the the polls closed. They were based off of I think hold on. You know what? This dude, hold on. I think he was a little toasty. But he had a good breakdown.
All right, South Carolina Republican elections.
South Carolina Republican.
Closed. I have the winners for you. Special on Turks election coverage.
This dork.
You know what? I'm throwing in the sound effects for free today. Amazing.
I think he's celebrating a
so
little
the
too
reason
much.
why we're not doing a big giant studio show is because we knew who was going to win. That's not the question. The question is how much did Donald Trump win by? And then I've got a hilarious stat for you from this election that tells, one, it's funny, but two, it shows you.
All right,
so that
let's
we
get
can give you
into
this
it.
honest coverage, this coverage that actually has
Is there a
information in
transcript?
it.
There's
that
no
isn't
transcript
just
for nothing,
commentary or
dude.
analysis, but actually
This
has
is
numbers and stats and facts for you guys. And we don't let any of our perspective get in the way of those facts. So let's do it. And then, by the way, if you join and polls that happened earlier. So you know how people tell you all the time, oh, don't believe the polls, man. The polls don't. No, the polls are true. That's not
These polls are left wing. You should not believe them.
at all true.
These polls are right wing. You should not believe them.
Polls are actually usually very accurate, and they're within their
Most
margin
of
of
them
error.
are.
And their margin of error might be 2 points, 4 points, and they're usually around that ballpark. Sometimes you get a spectacular case where it's very different, and then I'll explain to you why it didn't follow the polls, usually having to do with people showing up who are not likely voters, which is what the polls are based on. But 9 out of 10 times, the polls are accurate, and that's why Donald Trump has won. You see, I'm not in favor of Donald Trump, to say the least. That's my opinion. Anybody who's watched the Young Turks before knows that. I'm this.
I think Chink's been drinking, dude.
Okay.
Jesus Christ,
So
dude.
that's polling by about 23 points. It was supposed to be about 61-38. Let's check in to see where the
61-38?
voting is right now. Tiny amount reporting
Let
of
me
the
check
actual
the
votes.
polls.
Only 2% of
Trump,
the votes in, and
Haley.
right now, wow, look at how off the polling was. They said 61-38. When in reality, right now, it's 61.7, 37.5. Oh, almost exactly what the polls predicted. Now, it's only 2% reporting, but
Yikes.
we'll see if they land around those numbers. But they'll land somewhere in that ballpark. And look at Ron DeSantis with 0.5%. God, don't feel too bad, Ronnie Meatballs. You're still hanging in there, even though you're not in the
Google
race.
does not give a
So,
shit about this fucking.
I don't think he actually went with Ronnie we predicted he would.
This event.
So look at
to
us.
usually
Bears
post
showing
it here.
America. So we were wrong.
New York
we thought he was going to
Times.
call him Ronnie Meatball the whole time. He said he went with DeSanctus. DeSanctimonious. Still
All
no
right,
one's asked
yeah,
us what
very funny.
sanctimonious means. There's
Oh
no way
yeah,
to
it's
look up. Anyways,
60-39.
So now, how many delegates are at stake? 50 delegates are at stake here. Well, what's
Is that
current math?
100%
Well, we've
checked
had Iowa and
in?
New Hampshire
93%.
and Nikki Haley actually has 17 delegates. It's not like she's being shut out or anything. And Donald Trump has 63 delegates. So he's, relatively comfortably in the lead, and he wins South Carolina. Oh, no! 3% of the vote says it's moved dramatically. 54.4% to Donald Trump, 44.9% for Nikki Haley.
So
It's
all
only
candidates.
She's closing in. That doesn't mean.
You got the sign of the
Look,
beast?
the numbers go up and down in every election night you've ever seen.
Hold on, look, you got the sign of the beast here, dude. What
The
happened?
numbers don't get relevant until there's like 50% reporting, 70% reporting. Then you begin to, okay, now time's running out for the other side to close in. At 2-3% reporting, it doesn't mean a damn thing. Okay, and everybody remember, it's not like she's closing in as she gets to within 10 points of him. All the votes already happened. This is just the way that they're counting. And by the way, Republicans who are super paranoid about how everybody's going to cheat against Trump, number one, it looks like they're not cheating against him. Okay. And number two, you see that when the numbers on Trump's side, like me, I can't stand Trump. I'm not saying, oh, it's fake. Oh, he stole the election. Oh, it's rigged. No. Just calm down. Yeah, he's winning, and he's winning easily. You see how easy it is to say that even when you don't agree with the person? You should give it a shot. Okay, I've got more amazing things. But first, 00, gifted a Young Turks membership. You think I won't call that out? I'll call that out. Thank you for doing that. Aaron talks culture.
Did they give the
much more progressive personalities that I'm on it?
they give detailed
Maybe
maps
because I have the jacket on?
and analysis?
No, thank you. I appreciate it. That's wonderful of you to say. So
Did they show the issues?
yeah,
or?
some folks think that I'm among the progressive leaders. Others don't.
Okay, so yeah.
Okay, what am I going to do? Okay,
Charleston
I can only
looks
try
like,
so hard. Anyways. Okay, now back to numbers. This is important. When enthusiastic is 46% saying they're angry. When they're angry, that they're going to show up to vote. So that's the thing that is a huge advantage that Donald Trump has, that he's going to energize his base, and they're already dissatisfied and angry. They want some change, so they're very motivated to vote. Not as much on the Democratic side, which is a giant problem. Obviously, 84% think the condition of the national economy is not good. They're Republicans. They're going to say that almost no matter what.
Yeah.
The reality is the economy is mixed. It's not great for poor middle-class people.
That's the thing about the two-party solution, right? Or the two-party system that we have right now. Anytime a party is in place or in power, the voters from the other party will always say the economy is bad. And that's just the way it is.
It hasn't been great for them for 40, 50 years. Biden hasn't changed that dynamic for the worse or for the better much.
Man, I'm on
but the economy overall is very strong. Near record unemployment levels, meaning
I
low
want to choke this person.
and now
I want to choke him right now. How many jobs? How many gig jobs make up employment? Generated 36% of U.S. workers identify as independent workers. This includes gig, contract, freelance, and temporary workers. Okay, I don't think that this should be included. Gig workers earn between $1,000 and $11,000 average monthly income. What? Okay, yeah, I would believe $1,000. 40% of companies have at least one gig worker as an employee. Now, if you're counting gig jobs as part of the employment factor, then yeah, unemployment is going to look really low. But I'd be interested to see what it looks like when you take the gig economy out of employment, because as we can see here, somebody making $1,000 a month ain't shit in this economy. Now, when you say $11,000, I would believe that's somebody that's a contract worker or freelance, not a temporary worker for sure. These two, there are two categories here in these 4 descriptions, and that should be separated. Now you have these assholes, McKinsey and whatever, trying to give you, trying to dilute those numbers.
So,
and
is it true?
conflate them.
84% of Republicans actually be dissatisfied with the economy? No. But are they
And
going to be
that's an issue.
dissatisfied? Yes. And why? It's because that killer stat I'm going to tell you in a second. But I'm going to give you all the other ones first. But in the
It's
meanwhile,
fucking
Trisha
nuts.
Briggs, premium level member. Look at that, saying loving my live videos.
Giving his stuff
and
away,
definitely
man.
a progressive leader.
You gotta be a salesman.
He's coming. How lovely. Hero? Are you kidding me? No. Every member of the Young Turks is a hero. This, guys, it's not an exaggeration.
I wish this had captions.
Without the members,
It should have
there is no
captions.
Young Turks. Poof. And look,
But anyway.
moderate or liberal, in the old days, including 2016, somewhat conservative would win even in a South Carolina Republican primary and has been winning. Not anymore. It's at 36% now. Very conservative is now winning at 43%. So the Republican Party has become even more conservative and even angrier than they were before.
So I think what he said there is that the Republican Party is basically angry with the situation, or more angry than they have been in the past, with the current situation of the current administration. And then not only that, combine that with the view that they view themselves as more conservative or very conservative now, compared to the past when the overwhelming majority, or not overwhelming majority, but like 39% or 36% or whatever, was the biggest chunk, and it was mostly people identifying as like partially conservative. So what he's saying is that they're a lot more conservative now as far as people that are voting for Republican, and then they're also kind of mad. So that kind of lines up with what we've seen out of people that have Republican views and that spout, kind of toxic bullshit online, especially. You would think the online space is a very like niche kind of thing. I think it's something you can magnify and get an idea
This is the
of.
one I believe least. They say only 45% said yes, 49% said no. I think that there's a little bit of a stain on the word MAGA, the brand MAGA. So that's, I think, why more people are saying that they're not MAGA. They're not voting that way, right? But
people that identify as MAGA. Yeah, that's also been a thing where basically half of the voters or half of the party, I wouldn't say half of the party, because you always have like people that don't vote, right? But the sample of these voters that voted today, or that were taken in this poll, almost half identified as MAGA, and the other half identified as not. That's actually huge compared to what it was maybe like 2020 and 2016. It seems like that movement is slowly just consuming the entire Republican Party. When it would have been 20% previously, for now it to be like 50%, that's an obvious gain for that party. One thing that I thought back in 2020 was that if Trump was impeached or didn't get the nomination from the RNC at that point in time, I believed that he would split off and make his own like Patriot Party, and that would be like the MAGA stronghold from there on out. It seems like rather than doing that, he's hung on, and it's worked out for him to instead turn the Republican Party into that party that he wanted it to be. which sucks for the Republican Party, and it also sucks for people that want to be traditional Republicans and, you know, stay with their classic, maybe moderate views and whatnot. People like Nikki Haley, people like Mitt Romney, Liz Cheney, and all those people, and everybody, you know, in between. Because their party is just gone to shit. It's funny to see, I guess.
It is interesting. Maybe they are not MAGA, but they think, no, I still think Trump's the best candidate. Certainly possible. That's the one stat that's a little bit encouraging. Maybe they're not all crazy MAGA. Again, they voted very heavily for Trump, and I'm going to tell you the delegates he won tonight in a second, too. But RavQ, welcome to membership. Love it. Thank you. You're now, you are T1. Do you consider yourself a producer? There's a producer level. You can do that. You can upgrade through the join button, too. But overall, you guys all produce this show, all make this show possible. Okay. White evangelicals were 61% of the electorate. They're a huge base for Donald Trump and the Republican Party.
He said white evangelicals make up 61%?
In South Carolina, than even in Iowa. And then 92% of the electorate in this election, primary election, was white. That's not at all surprising, and the heavy percentage of the Democratic primary voters are black, not anywhere near 92%. But yeah, we've got this bifurcation on races. I hate that it's based on race, and we hope that it's not based on it, either on the Republican or Democratic side. It does often feel that way, but no one's surprised by that number. Ada, thank you for the super chat. No, this is me as Young Turk's host. This is my day job, and that's what I'm doing here. So that's why I'm not talking about the Democratic side at all. I'm just talking about the Republican primary today in South Carolina. Now, the stat that I promised you. So one of the things that Nikki Haley ran on was, hey, I'm worried about Donald Trump. His physical and mental health is not good enough. Now, in my opinion, this is a super weak sauce way to run on the Republican side. Now, Donald Trump's a mental mess. Number one, he always was, but number two, these days he's fallen apart at the seams. I mean, we care to be able to convince the Republican voters that Donald Trump is an addled old fool. Whether he actually is or isn't is not relevant to whether you're going to convince them of that. So that is a poor political strategy. In my opinion, I've said that before. You have to undercut his strength. You have to show how weak he is. You have to show how many bankruptcies he went through, how he hides his grades, he hides his medical records, because he's embarrassed of himself. And you have to belittle him. And oh my God, that's really tough. Don't do that. Yeah.
Voters.
If you don't want to win, don't do it. But if you're going to put your big boy pants on, in this class of the Democrats, way more than even Nikki Haley, you're going to have to criticize the guy in a way that actually hurts him with independent voters and maybe even a little bit of his base. And you saying he's racist
is
or
2022.
you saying he's old, those things are not going to work.
42% of 58 disavow the term.
Who he is,
it seems like that's going up.
Oh, yeah? I got concerns about Nikki Haley's mental and physical health. So
widely unpopular.
You know what the original fake news was?
It's 2023.
Putting out a whole bunch of fake articles on Facebook in 2016. But he flipped it so hard. He started calling mainstream media fake
52%. So you can see it's gradually like going down, right?
You think it's a Republican accusing mainstream media of being fake news. But it actually started with literally the Trump campaign putting out fake articles online.
Yeah.
So he does a same jujitsu move here and goes, no, my problem is mental health isn't my problem.
Trump,
it's Nikki Haley's
fake
problem.
news,
Guess what?
articles, Facebook.
So when they ask, hey, are you worried about the physical and mental health of Trump? 72% say, no, I'm not.
Quarter of them had misinformation.
27% say, yeah, I'm a little.
Is there something from 2016?
Not bad. All right, well, let's look at Nikki Haley's. Do you think Haley has the physical or mental health to be president? 60%, yes, she does. 39% no. It's a much bigger number than Trump's. So Republican voters are like, oh,
he's convinced. Well, hold on. If almost half of the voters identify as MAGA, then the majority of those voters are going to follow whatever the fuck Trump is saying. So for it to be 39%, 39% of those that voted for Trump, that would be 50%. So 39%, that's believable that they would say that. That makes sense to me. That he's convinced them that that Nikki Haley has mental problems. That seems to be like a huge issue. I think we have a problem here. But let's go.
Waiting in long lines to cast their ballots tonight. The race was open to all voters except for those who participated in the Democratic presidential primary earlier this month. The former governor and UN ambassador acknowledging an uphill battle in her home state as Trump maintains his unbeaten streak in the GOP primaries. And now we're getting some preliminary exit poll data, a glimpse of what was on voters' minds when they went to the polls. When asked which issue mattered the most in deciding how to vote,
10% abortion
were the top two issues, followed by foreign policy and abortion. But when asked who they would trust more to handle border security and the economy, voters overwhelmingly said Trump. This coming as the former president is under fire for some racially charged comments he made during an appearance before black conservatives. How Trump's rivals are now responding to those comments and what Haley is saying about her campaign plans after tonight's primary. We have team coverage tonight. ABC's Rachel Scott leads us off in South Carolina.
Tonight, Nikki Haley's challenge to Donald Trump falling short. Early results show the former president defeating her in her home state. At polling locations, long lines stretching to parking lots. Voters waiting to cast their ballot. Haley showing up to the polls in Kiowa Island with her mother and 2 children.
There's a lot of excitement, energy. You could tell South Carolinians are passionate. They're getting out and voting. That's what we want.
Haley's campaign acknowledged her uphill battle in a state that elected her governor twice. Polls show her trailing by 30 points. The former president barely campaigned here, spending most of today in Washington, D.C. But tonight, Trump is facing criticism for what he told supporters at a black conservative event Friday night.
These lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. But I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones.
What a fucking dumbass.
Trump claiming his 4 criminal cases and even his mugshot are helping him win over black voters.
I got indicted a 2nd time and a 3rd time and a 4th time. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against.
In 2016, Trump won just 6% of the black vote. In 2020, 8%. Polls showed in 2016, Trump won just, and even his mugshot are helping him win over black voters.
I got indicted a 2nd time and a 3rd time and a 4th time. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against.
In 2016, Trump won just 6% of the black vote. In 2020, 8%. Polls show the majority of black voters do not have a favorable view of Trump, but with President Biden's approval rating slipping.
Damn, they dragged his ass in the numbers. Yeah, you lying, bro. Also, that's fucked up. Maybe don't go off the script, man. Wow, what a fucking dumbass.
Flipping Trump season opening.
I am pro-life, and the borders need to be secure. So those are things that affect me, not the words. I mean, I don't like it, but those are words. Border needs to be secure.
The Biden campaign calling Trump's words insulting, insisting it's moronic and just plain racist.
Yes.
In a statement saying, this is the same man who falsely accused the Central.
Also, Mr. Not Your Face Moving at All, genocide person.
Part 5.
Did not make these comments. These were from his, people, right?
The Biden campaign calling Trump's...
The Biden campaign. So he did not make these comments. The campaign made these comments.
Words insulting, insisting it's moronic, and just plain racist. In a statement saying, this is the same man who falsely accused the Central Park 5, questioned George Floyd's humanity, and
pose it as this person is saying this, but it's not.
And now Nikki Haley firing back too.
It's not what it is.
Are those comments acceptable?
It's disgusting. But
I
that's
mean, that's
what happens
obvious.
when he goes off the teleprompter. That's the chaos that comes with Donald Trump.
Some voters buying that argument. Sherry Herring voted for Trump twice. Today, she voted for Haley.
Trump will lose.
Okay, I thought they were gonna ask her about the whole. Never mind.
Cannon, and he could be in jail. He's got so many, and he's got problems. He's got a lot of problems.
You
And
think
even
so?
with that, she says she would support him in the general election. And if he is the nominee, will you support him again?
I will.
You will.
I will. I won't vote Democrat.
Jesus
Seems
Christ,
like for you, that
man.
might be a pretty tough pill to swallow.
Oh, she said she won't. She'll
would
vote
be.
Democrat. Okay.
It definitely would be.
Okay.
Wait, Nikki
got
Haley
it.
says win or lose here in South Carolina, she is staying in this race until Super Tuesday on March 5th. But she did admit today that she really hasn't thought through what comes after that. And the reality is the more states Donald Trump wins, the harder it will be for her to clinch the nominations. Whit.
All right, Rachel, thank you. And as you noted, Nikki Haley is vowing to stay in the race. So let's get right to ABC's political director, Rick Klein, for a reality check here and a look at the map. But Rick, it is a difficult road ahead
the hell?
for the former South Carolina governor.
Oh,
That's
stop.
exactly right. After tonight, the campaign basically goes national. Michigan's primaries in 3
Dude,
days. A week
what is
after that
happening?
is Super Tuesday. 15 states nationwide,
We're
coast
back
to
over
coast,
here. All right.
voting on that night. But here's the thing. The Haley campaign is only realistically targeting about 7 of those states. In most of the other places, including huge California, the rules are written in a way that makes it almost inevitable that Donald Trump is going to win all of the delegates. And after Super Tuesday, it becomes almost impossible for a candidate to catch up. Things have started slow, but by Super Tuesday, almost half of the delegates will have been selected. So if Donald Trump wins tonight, he will probably be on a glide path to the nomination. Haley will be in a position of just kind of picking up delegates here or there where she can, but mostly it will be a campaign about becoming a backup plan in case something dramatic happened to Donald Trump or his campaign. Whit?
Rick, thank you. We appreciate it. And stay with us for a continuing coverage of the South Carolina primary,
this
both
work?
on ABC and streaming on ABC News Live. Turning overseas now to the Israel-Hamas war and some encouraging signs from the ceasefire talks underway in Paris. Word tonight that Israel has agreed to an updated framework for a ceasefire and hostage deal in Gaza. What's in that potential deal and where the negotiations go from here? ABC's Marcus Moore is in Tel Aviv tonight.
New signs of progress in negotiations tonight for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas that could release 6 American hostages from Gaza. ABC News has learned that Israeli negotiators have agreed to an updated framework that would include a 6-week ceasefire in Gaza and the release of 40 hostages, among them women, the elderly, injured and sick, but no male soldiers or bodies of the dead. In return, Israel would release up to 400 Palestinians from jail. Israeli officials say they're waiting for a response from Hamas, which could take a couple of days. This week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu proposing plans for Gaza after the war, including security buffers and local governance. But the U.S. said it must meet basic principles.
It cannot be a platform for terrorism. There should be no Israeli reoccupation of Gaza. The size of Gaza's territory should not be reduced.
And as Netanyahu commits to additional military action in Rafah, world leaders and aid groups have expressed grave concern for the 1.4 million Palestinians taking refuge from the fighting there.
Many of those families struggling tonight just to find basic food and medicine. In his message, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also said that only a combination of military pressure and firm negotiations will lead to the release of their hostages.
That's because he's a dumbass, fucking piece of shit. He wants to keep dropping fucking bombs on these people. Yeah.
With Marcus Moore for us tonight, thank you. And staying overseas, a multilateral coalition led by the U.S. launching a new round of airstrikes against 18 Houthi targets in Yemen today. Those targets included underground storage facilities for weapons and missiles. This in response to a surge in attacks by the Iran-backed rebels on ships in the Red Sea.
A surge in attacks. Why don't you talk about the ship that they almost sunk, or they pretty much did sink?
Next tonight, an arrest.
Didn't even mention that shit, dude. Oh my god. They're like, nah, everything's fine, bro. We're bombing the shit out of them. Things are going really good. Don't worry about it. Yeah, alright. Yeah, the rest of this, I don't know. That is important. We shot down another fucking dumbass balloon. Are you fucking kidding me? All right, let's skip over to the nightly news. Do they have anything to say?
His only Republican rival. Haley vowing to remain in the race despite losing her home state and sharpening her attacks.
Everything he touches is chaos that leads to a loss.
But without the win she was hoping for, does she have
Yeah, all right. Well, we can skip all that.
And Garrett Hake joins us from Columbia, South Carolina at a Trump election night party. Hey, Garrett.
Gotti, this is now a victory party here for Donald Trump, and expect to hear him claim victory not just in South Carolina, but in this Republican primary. He and his campaign are eager to pivot all of their attention to Joe Biden and this fall's general election. Gotti?
Garrett Hake, thank you. And for more, let's bring in NBC's Meet the Press moderator, Kristen Welker.
I mean, at this point, Nikki Haley has to like give up, right? Like she's not in it anymore. So that'll probably come out tomorrow, I'm sure.
Point, does Haley still have a path forward?
No, stupid.
Well, Gotti, Nikki Haley's path to the nomination is uphill at best. Regardless of what happens in South Carolina, she's looking to Michigan, which votes on Tuesday. Now, that state has an open primary, meaning voters of any party affiliation can vote for the candidate of their choosing. That could help Haley, who posed well with Democrats and independents. Haley is also eyeing Super Tuesday states that have open primaries, including Virginia, Minnesota, and Massachusetts.
You know what? You mentioned
but catching
Michigan.
Trump will be nearly impossible, given his already huge...
I would say Michigan is a possibility, not for her to win, but for her to get closer to 50. Just because people will be more inclined to not vote for Donald Trump, but vote for anybody else. Who right now the third option seems to be Nikki Haley. Now I don't know what the rules are in Michigan. I think if you register as a Democrat in a lot of states, then you cannot vote in the Republican primaries. So that might be an issue. But yeah, I don't know. It would be surprising, I guess.
Meanwhile, Democrats are watching this all closely. I interviewed California's Governor Gavin Newsom earlier today and asked him if Democrats want Haley to get out of the race so the general election can officially begin.
I don't know why Democrats would want her out of the race. She's one of our better surrogates. I mean, she's defining the opposition to Trump incredibly effectively. I mean, she's making points I'm applauding every single day about his temperament, his capacity, his, unraveling in real time.
They're saving that motherfucker for like the next election cycle instead of running him. They should have like packed up Joe Biden, put him in a box, and you could just like, bury him already, and then just put out Gavin Newsom, man, and then you can continue the stupid two-party election cycle and shit. So, oh my God, I'm gonna choke somebody.
California Governor Gavin Newsom tomorrow morning on Meet the Press right here.
The worst fucking blunt rotation known to man.
On NBC. And now to breaking news overseas. The U.S. launching more than a dozen new airstrikes in Yemen in response to attacks by Iran-backed Houthi rebels. Courtney Cubie has the latest.
Yeah, we saw that.
What else do we know?
Yeah, the U.S. and British military striking back against the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels for their continued attacks against ships in the Red Sea. U.S. and British military airstrikes hitting 18 targets at 8 locations in Yemen, including underground storage facilities, weapons, and even a helicopter. NBC News was on board the USS Eisenhower in the Red Sea during similar strikes earlier this month. But even with continued strikes, the Houthis remain defiant, accelerating attacks against ships, including the missile strike that disabled the British-owned Ruby Mar, forcing the crew to abandon the vessel. It's now leaking oil, causing an 18-mile oil slick, along with concerns about the
according to the logic here is,
that could turn into an
the
environmental
logic of the situation here is stop making me hit you. So that oil spill is on the U.S. at this point.
Gotti.
Courtney Cubie, thank you. And to the war in Ukraine now, exactly 2 years to the day since Russian troops invaded, and now Vladimir Putin's troops appear to be gaining the upper hand after recent victories on the battlefield. Richard Engel reports from Kiev.
I mean, dog, we start giving them weapons and money. There's a lot of money that was going into the Ukrainian economy. It wasn't just weapons that we were giving them. It was a lot of like, like I would say like socialist aspects of keeping up like their restaurants and their grocery supply and whatnot, as far as what the U.S. was supplying. So without the money and without the funds that we were giving them, those places will probably collapse quickly rather than later. So a combination of not having enough artillery or weapons, and then people not having enough food or places to be, then yeah, you're gonna
2 years
lose
ago
to an
tonight,
imperialist
Russian
force if you're an
helicopters
independent
raided the
nation, of
outskirts
course,
Kyiv.
without the support of another
The opening
imperialist
attack
nation.
of Vladimir Putin's war to conquer Ukraine. The country was nearly overwhelmed by the massive assault.
The Ukrainians blew up this bridge in
Going
order
back to
to
2022.
slow down the Russian advance, but it has also made it extremely difficult for people to evacuate these areas that are hotly contested.
But with courage, backed by weapons and money from Washington and Europe, Ukraine held on.
Ooh, fancy.
And today, on the spot of the first attack, President Volodymyr Zelensky greeted allies from Canada, Italy, Belgium, and the European Union. It is here that Putin wanted to win the battle for our capital, and
Italy.
here the
Canada, what are you doing, dude?
world saw that evil can be defeated, he said.
I understand
But the
Italy.
anniversary comes at a hard time for Ukraine. Sanctions against Russia aren't working, ammunition is running low after a failed offensive, and aid from the United States is held up in Congress. While in Russia, President
Sorry,
Putin
no
is
money.
relishing the moment. His troops are advancing in Ukraine.
The
while
United
he's
States
on a
is like pulling out their pockets, and it's like, I don't know where the money went. Like Mr. Monopoly and shit. Oh no, not an ad break.
campaign tour for elections he's assured to win. But Alexei Navalny won't go away, even in death. Today, his mother received his body after claiming authorities had instructed her to bury him in secret. His widow, who met President Biden, didn't give any clues as to next steps.
Ukrainian troops have left a message.
We're not asking for too much. We just need a couple $2 billion. Got it?
It says, we are not asking too much. We just need artillery shells and aviation. The rest we do ourselves. Many here don't
Got it, brother.
understand why the U.S. seems to have lost interest in Ukraine and the
Like, I remember when they first started, not started shipping weapons over to Ukraine, because that had been happening since like 2014. If you recall, that's one thing that Trump got in trouble for, was withholding the shipment of weapons to Ukraine from the United States, and basically asking for more in exchange. And that's where that perfect phone call all came into play, right? So that was his big issue. So this has been going on since before 2016, since before Trump's administration. Initially, once 2022 hit and Russia tried to get in there, or did get in there as far as they got, we started, it was advertised initially as lethal aid that we were giving them. That didn't go over well with the public, as far as like however many $1 billion of lethal aid, because all that was basically the U.S. saying, hey, we have all these weapons we can give you, and Ukraine saying, okay, well, give me the weapons. And they're like, all right, but we're going to make it like it's $1. And so we're going to give you like $5 billion in lethal aid. And they're like, fine. And so give Ukraine the $5 billion. Ukraine gives back that $5 billion to the U.S., and the U.S. gives them weapons. That's basic accounting. Now, saying lethal aid in the public didn't go over very well. I think that was a thing that like Republicans and anti-war people in general hung on to.
vast implications
and then you ended up with a negative view for some on the Ukrainian Russia war at that point.
The biggest land war in Europe since World War II. Gotti?
Richard Engel, thank you. And back here at home, the University of Georgia's campus is on edge after a student was killed. A suspect is in custody tonight, but it is still unclear why it happened. Marissa Parr,
people getting murdered on
tonight in Georgia, a community in
on
mourning,
campus.
days
Yeah,
after the shocking
sounds
murder
about right. Surprised it wasn't a shootout.
And we're back now with an update from space, where the moon lander known as Odysseus
Space.
tipped sideways while landing
Where's Alex Jones when you need him?
on the moon's surface.
I'm
Now, this
kidding.
is the first private spacecraft to ever reach the moon and the first from the U.S. since 1972. The company behind it says Odysseus is alive and well, even after one of its 6 feet got caught on the moon's surface when it landed. Also tonight, we are learning new details about the death of a non-binary high school student in Oklahoma. They died after being attacked in a school bathroom, and tonight, newly released body cam and surveillance video is raising questions about what happened. Priya Shrithar has the very latest.
Here.
So what happened today?
I got jumped.
Tonight, new police body camera video shows a 16-year-old Oklahoma high school student describing a fight they had in school just one day before their tragic death.
They came at me, they grabbed onto my hair, I grabbed onto them, I threw one of them.
Next, Benedict, who uses they-them pronouns, speaking to an Owasso police officer from the emergency room of a nearby hospital.
And you got me on the ground, I was trying to beat the me.
Newly released school surveillance cameras show
You got me on the ground and then what? Hold on, I need to listen to that.
officer from the emergency room of a nearby hospital.
And you got me on the ground, I was trying to beat the me.
Newly
Beating the
released
shit
school
out of me,
surveillance
okay.
cameras show Benedict in the cafeteria with classmates, then walking into a bathroom where Benedict says a fight broke out.
They had said something like, why do they laugh like that? And they were talking about us in front of us. And so I went up there and I poured water on them.
Okay.
And then all three of them came at me.
Shortly after, a faculty member rushes into the bathroom. Later, Benedict is seen walking to the principal's office and then out of the school, escorted by their mom. The next day, Nex's mom calling 911, telling dispatchers Nex is having trouble breathing. She later apologized on a GoFundMe page for not using...
Hold on, so they beat the shit out of him. They beat the shit out of them, and then they went home, and then they died?
911, telling dispatchers Nex is having trouble breathing. She later apologized on a GoFundMe page for not using Nex's desired pronouns.
She got beat up at school yesterday. I took her to the hospital last night.
Paramedics rushed Nex to the hospital where they later died. Owasso Public Schools tells NBC News they don't have a comment on the new video. According to Owasso Police, the medical examiner's office determined that Benedict did not die from trauma, and they're awaiting toxicology results. But the newly released video has sparked outrage and sadness, with more questions than answers about a young life cut tragically short. Priya Shrithar, NBC News.
Priya, thank you. And we're back in a moment with that measles outbreak now
No,
spreading
I'm
in
gonna get
Florida,
clapped.
and officials confirm new cases in 2 other states. Plus, why these students celebrated their custodian on one of the biggest days of his life.
Custodian.
And we're back with dramatic new video of a fire
Yeah,
measles
it's
outbreak
New York,
in
bro.
Florida that appears to be spreading, and it comes as
Oh
Michigan
my God.
and Indiana confirmed their
Oh my
first
God.
cases in nearly 5 years.
Fucking dumbass anti-vaxxers, you fucking idiots. Jesus Christ. Gonna get us all killed.
Jesse Kirsch has the latest.
Tonight, the highly infectious measles virus is spreading across more of the country, including in Florida, where a concerning outbreak is growing.
Right now, I'm not sending my 10-year-old to school.
There is definitely some concern about parents, about their kids being exposed and getting sick.
Officials
You
in the
think?
Fort Lauderdale area are now
What do you mean
reporting a
concerned?
7th measles case within days.
What the fuck you
this time
talking
in
about?
a child under age 5. And unlike the others in Broward County, Florida,
Oh,
this
it's a
new
concern.
case is from
Yes.
outside Manatee Bay Elementary School, where the other 6 were confirmed.
the virus can linger in the air for 2 hours, stay on surfaces. So this is something very easy to give and get, especially in a school environment.
Florida is not the only state hit by the virus, which can be deadly. On Friday, Michigan and Indiana both reported their first measles case in almost 5 years. And the latest CDC data shows more than 30 cases nationwide this year across more than a dozen states, with most cases related to international travel. That tally is already more than half of what was reported in the United States for all of 2023.
Is there something about this year that is making people more vulnerable to the measles right now?
Yeah, it's a combination of people not getting their vaccines on schedule during the pandemic and then just not necessarily getting to the doctor's office.
According to the CDC, measles complications can affect children under age 5 especially hard. Symptoms can take 2 weeks to appear and may include high fever, cough, runny nose, red eyes, and a rash. Experts say the best thing you can do is get your children vaccinated to keep them healthy. Jesse Kirsch, NBC News.
Jesse, thank you. And when we come back, there is good news tonight.
Oh man, he
about
told
those
these
two
anti-vaxxers to get vaccinated.
Red eyes and a rash. Experts say the best thing you can do is get your children vaccinated to keep them healthy. Jesse Kirsch, NBC News. Jesse, thank you. And when we come back, there is good news tonight about those 2 dreams that came true for this sailor, all in 1 week. So stay tuned. And finally, there is good news tonight, and a lot of times the good news doesn't get as much attention as the bad.
I don't want good news. I want to be sad. Oh yeah, with this dumbass.
And by the way, for those who say, yeah, well, he's still winning every 60% compared to Nikki Haley's 40%. Let's be clear, the guy is running as an incumbent. I mean, hell, Trump contends that he didn't even lose the last election, so he would really be the incumbent.
Yeah, I get it.
The incumbent is garnering
I get
just
it.
over.
Like, he's running as an incumbent, so his numbers should be higher. Oh, wait, hold on. Run that by me again. What are you trying to tell me here? Damn it. No, okay, closed captions at least.
The South Carolina primary has just concluded, and there are some massive blinking red lights for Donald Trump. The first is that he took about 60% compared to Nikki Haley's 40%. Let's be clear, the guy is running as an incumbent. I mean, hell, Trump contends that he didn't even lose the last election, so he would really be the incumbent. And yet, the incumbent is...
Okay, I get it. You're part of MSNBC now. You're a Democratic Voice and whatnot. BTC. But even though he's running as an incumbent, yes, nobody wants him. I mean, not nobody. Half of the party doesn't want him. That's understood. You're churching it up here and you're doing it on purpose. I quite understand that. But if 45% or whatever it is of Republican voters identify as MAGA, then they are for sure going to solidly vote for Trump. That is a guarantee. So he, by establishing the MAGA brand upon the Republican Party, has established himself and whoever he deems the person to be his successor, to be the incumbent of MAGA, being the incumbent of the presidential election no longer matters. He has created his own thing.
Garnering just over half the vote? In Trump's victory speech, he literally said that the Republican Party...
And it's not just over half the vote. Just over half the vote would be like 52%. 55%. 61-39, 60-40 is still the majority, man. Come on.
...is unified. If the GOP was any less unified...
And the Republican Party will be unified when this goes to the general election. If there's one thing that we know about Republicans is that they don't care if, they interviewed that one lady in her car talking about how she might vote Democrat. They won't. That won't happen. You can go back and interview her on November 8th and ask her what happened. She'll tell you she voted Republican. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they do. These people will always fall in line, and they will always vote Republican. Even the people that back people like Liz Cheney and all those people that I talked about earlier, they will continue to back the people that they want, because that's the Republican Party to them. None of this really matters. None of this other stuff really matters to them. Where's this window? Oh, okay, got it. And all of this is just like for show. I don't know how much that we believe, or how much you want us to believe that this stuff actually matters. They're going to continue to vote Republican, and that's really the way it is.
It would be split into two separate parties. And by the way, for those who say, yeah, well, he's still winning every primary, you want to know what a decisive win actually looks like? Joe Biden got over 9...
Brother, you're splitting hairs. What do you mean a decisive win? They don't let anybody else run. Look at this. Marianne Williamson and Dean Phillips, get fucked.
96% of the vote in South Carolina. That is what it looks like when you win decisively.
Okay, where's fucking Cornel West? Where's like even Jenks not on there? Where's RFK and all those people? You don't let them run against anybody, man.
Advantage looks like. Donald Trump may
This is gaslighting by the fucking Democratic Party right here.
Want to sell this idea that he's running as the incumbent and that the party is unified behind him, but performing 35 points worse than Joe Biden is as apples to apples.
Brian, please stop, brother. Please stop. This is good. This is good for the gander, but it's not good for the goose, because you're selling it. You're selling it to yourself. You're preaching to the choir. I guess if that's what you want to do, if that's what you built your tight suits and your brand on,
increasingly weak,
do your thing,
even
brother.
within his own party. By the way, this isn't a one-off. It's a consistent theme among the GOP base. In Iowa, Trump got 51% of the vote, and in New Hampshire, Trump got 54% of the vote. Meaning, thus far, he has...
Yeah, because there was like 3 other options. Like, Ramaswamy was on the ticket, brother. Where is he at now?
At no point come close to consolidating the same share of his party as Joe Biden did of the...
So what you're telling me instead, if you look at those numbers, 51, 54%, is that his popularity is going up. It is now 61%. So where's your argument for that?
Democrats. Trump's weakness among his own base is as consistent as it gets. Another blinking red light? Here you go.
The real key here is this 59% of Haley voters who say that they would not vote for Donald Trump should he become the nominee.
That
tracks with about 24% of the Republican Party, which is right along the lines of what that New York Times Siena poll showed us almost a year ago.
Fucking used car salesman.
In terms of the makeup of the
Get off my
Republican
screen.
Party, in which there was about 25% of Republicans who say that they are never Trumpers.
That 59% of Haley voters won't vote for Trump. I want to be clear, that is a death knell for Trump's campaign. And it's not like Haley voters comprise some negligent faction of the GOP. Again, they are 40% of the primary base in South Carolina. And more than half of that 40% isn't going to vote for Donald Trump if he's the nominee. If those are the numbers from South Carolina's Republican primary voters, the most engaged, the most conservative...
Okay, I follow this guy too much. What did he post right now?
In the South Carolina Republican primary by the numbers. First number you need to know is 40. That's the percent of Republican primary voters who voted not for Donald Trump, but for Nikki Haley. And considering he's running as the incumbent, that is a blinking red light, especially considering Joe Biden...
He's doing the blinking red light thing. I got it, dude. It's the same thing. He just posted this like it's some brand new information. And then he got 463 likes. Come on, man. Your lips to God's ears. Oh my God, I appreciate these enthusiastic reassurances. At the same time, we can't be complacent. We need to show up. Numbers are what really matter. Hold on. Let me see. Anybody say Free Palestine here? No? Oh, some posts have been hidden. What the fuck are you... there's 2 tracks. These people have a 2-track mind. Are you going to talk about the Democratic Party, or are they going to talk about Trump? That's all these people do. If you go to somebody's profile, you will see all they talk about is Trump. Also, the NFL. There you go, Trump. I talk about Trump. They talk about Trump. All they do is they have an obsession. Okay, this person's posting about some other shit. I don't know what this is. But yeah, they talk about goosebumps. Oh my god. Oh my god. Kill me. You're killing me. You're killing me. That's what's up. Anyway. Yeah, dude. I don't know, man. Literal, just preaching to the choir kind of stuff. Did I just spit?
I mean, hell, even if 10%
What's going on here, man? My body's falling apart.
Donald Trump.
This is why we rarely talk about Trump or Biden, because it's annoying. It's the same bullshit over and over. We're winning. Oh no, we're losing. Oh no, we're losing. Oh no, we lost. That is the cycle. It's a bullshit cycle. It's annoying. There's plenty of other things to talk about in this world that can actually affect people and affect people's opinions. I believe that there are larger issues that have to deal with U.S. politics that are wrapped around U.S. politics. I believe that we have bigger problems than what this stupid election cycle that it seems to be predetermined is giving us. Yeah, there are major issues like the world falling apart. For example, how money works. The overdue collapse of the 9-to-5 job. Why work isn't working, basically. I'm sorry, what is this? Give me a refresher on that. Oh, okay. No, he already blasted that one. But yeah, we have bigger issues. Yeah, the election's important and whatnot. Girl capital of the night. Hold on. Is somebody doing karaoke? Without me? They did, man. Yeah, I was definitely upset about the karaoke thing. But yeah, sure, the election's important. It's in November. All polling is already showing what's going to happen. Everything that has happened between the last year and now has fallen in line. As far as Haley, as far as the challenger to Trump, I mean, we figured there would be one. Everybody thought it would be DeSantis, but DeSantis is basically just Trump light. Why would you want Trump light when you can get, the Trump wiser? Nobody wants that. So bye-bye DeSantis. Haley is a surprise, sure, but doesn't matter. No. Sure, she'll try to build on her own brand. Off if she doesn't get a cabinet position in the Trump administration, if that does happen, she'll try to build her own thing to be the successor in 2028, right? Will that happen? I think she'd have to overcome Gavin Newsom, which I would, if there are elections. I mean, everybody's talking about fascism and all this shit. If there's anything that I've seen about the United States, is that the military definitely loves the military more than they love the United States, and they will keep that. They will keep that that actor in place that is the United States, to keep up the military, because that is the way things work. I think we saw that on January 6th, where officers and military, especially the military that came in afterwards, they did not behave the way that those treasonous officers, I would say treasonous, I quote it, but I mean, there's reasons that I quote that, behaved. Is the military is always going to do what the military is going to do, and that's going to be uphold the United States. There will be elections in 2028. Hopefully I'm still alive by then. But I would assume it's going to be like Newsom versus Haley at that point. Because Kamala is no hope at all. But anyway, let's unlighten the mood, I guess, for a second. Talk about the death of 9 to 5, man. Hopefully. Let's see what's popping here.
Companies are doing mass layoffs while complaining about not being able to find enough employees.
True.
Some workers are min-maxing the system by working multiple full-time jobs at the same time, while others need to work hours of unpaid overtime at just one job. This is not to mention that the gig economy is consuming entire sections of the workforce. The 9 to 5 was created by American labor unions in the 1800s and became mainstream over 100 years ago, when jobs looked like this and this. It was revolutionary for its time. But how many of the modern problems in corporate America are caused by trying to make an outdated system fit with every single modern job?
In the U.S., 8.4 million people in the nation are working multiple jobs.
850,000 jobs. Wages went up for American workers.
Instead, they're working multiple jobs. It's called.
Wages go up every year, you fucking dumbass.
850,000 jobs. Wages went up for American workers.
Why? Oh, hold on. First of all, wages go up by 3% every year as a standard of an employment system, right? If you don't get a 3% raise every year, your job is not keeping up with inflation. Therefore, you are losing money if you don't get that every single year. It is a major problem. A lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people don't pay attention to that. So let's say you were in a job where you worked there for 5 years and you only got a 1 to 0% pay increase every year. Your total percentage increase year over year for those 5 years was like 3%. Now, compare that to somebody that got 3% every single year for 5 years, 15%. Who has the bigger wage if you started with the same wage to begin with? At the beginning of those 5 years, obviously the person with the 15%. So if you're not getting 3% every single year, you're getting screwed. Now, why do they give you 3%? The reason they give you 3% is because on average, inflation, year over year, inflation is generally 3%. So this is a general statement of what he just said.
Instead, they're working multiple jobs.
But yeah, now people are working multiple jobs because to keep up with inflation is not, the 3% doesn't do shit now when groceries are going up by 10%, 20%. Certain items, for example, a bag of charcoal that I bought today. I bought it back in 2021. It was $12. Now it's $20. That is not a 3 or 10% increase. That is a massive increase. Those $7, $12.99, $20 is a huge difference, especially for people that are trying to make it, man. People are trying to make, they're squeezing every dollar, and if you're not getting every dollar from everything that you can, then you're going to end up upside down, and you're going to be working multiple jobs just to get ahead. But even that, you probably won't even get ahead. You'll probably just be trying to break even or be barely head above water, man.
It's called being overemployed.
One part-time, but I need both of them to pay my bills every month, my rent and groceries, so just working all the time.
Y'all should feel bad.
A report by the management consulting firm McKinsey & Company found that 2/3 of the average human's wealth is in the work they can do over...
Remember, don't tell anybody how much you make. Why? They make you jealous. You Gopnik. It's still all my favorite slot. Pretty cool.
over their lifetime. Everybody has time, effort, and experience they can trade for money, and those tradable commodities are worth...
Brother, that's called labor. Time, effort, and experience. That is called labor. You sell your labor for money.
Twice as much as all the other assets that the average person possesses. A regular 9-to-5 job has been a great way for billions of people to safely exchange a predictable amount of their time for a predictable paycheck, with predictable career advancement as they gain more experience. But this one-size-fits-all model for work doesn't fit with every job, and trying to make it work has been bad for employees and bad for companies for 3 reasons, which is causing 3 equally terrible trends in the job market. The first trend is that it makes time a worthless asset. The Ford Motor Company was one of the first businesses in America to adopt the 9-to-5 40-hour work week. Henry Ford did this to make his company the most attractive place for auto workers to get a job. This allowed him to pull talent away from other automakers without paying his workers more. In order to compete with Ford, other automakers were forced to offer the same 40-hour work week with paid overtime.
Yeah.
Eventually, in order to compete with the automakers, other companies were also forced to offer 9-to-5 jobs so that their best workers didn't quit and go and work on the car assembly line. These auto work...
That's keeping up with the market, yes. One thing that you see today is jobs that are offering $15 an hour. Now, the federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, half of that. Why would you work for $7.25 an hour when you can get $15 an hour? Makes sense, right? Obviously, you want the job that's giving $15 an hour. In a lot of places, the movements have been to get the federal government to change the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Now, think about this in the same sentence as thinking about what he was talking about right now. If you can go ahead and establish that you pay $15 an hour, people are going to flock there. Just like I'm talking about, nobody wants a $7.25 job. They're going to go for the $15 job. Of course. Especially if it's the same type of job. Why not get paid more than double for your efforts? Now, what happens if the federal government, if and when the federal government finally changes to a $15 an hour model, then everybody's even. However, those companies that invested early on $15 an hour workers now have the best workers because they've been able to filter out the bad workers. Exactly where we are right here in the story.
Workers had tightly defined and repetitive tasks, so unless the workers succumbed to exhaustion, they could do a consistent amount of work for every hour they spent at their post, and every additional hour would produce the same amount of output. If you work in a modern office job, you will know that your work is nothing like this. Sometimes there is a lot to do, and sometimes there is nothing to do, but you still need to be there 8 hours a day looking busy no matter what. Back when the 40-hour week was being fought for by workers' unions, most Americans worked in manufacturing. But today, most people work in the services sector, which is more diverse than you might expect. Unless you are working on a farm or in a factory, you are a service worker. And your job could be anything from making strategic corporate decisions to making coffees. Clearly, these jobs are very different and should have a different schedule.
He said, sorry, run that by me again.
Be anything from making strategic corporate decisions to making coffees.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, these jobs are very different and should have a different schedule. But most of the corporate world has tried to make the 9-to-5 fit all jobs.
For every job,
this
yes.
Doesn't work because
It's
no
like
service
can't get your
jobs
fucking
has to
dry cleaning
consistently
done
deliver
after
on a
like
fine-tuned
6
production.
p.m., man.
Work comes and goes as internal and external customers make demands. And
That used to be really important to me because I would sacrifice my check to get dry cleaning done because I just got tired of ironing my own clothes. Super annoying.
Means when people are busy and need to do more than 8 hours in a day to finish their work, they are expected to work, quote, reasonable unpaid overtime. According to an ADP Research Institute study of office professionals, unpaid overtime jumped to an average of 9.2 hours per week in 2021. More than a full extra day to keep up with employer demands. But when
Yeah, I was doing that. That shit sucks, dude. I think I talked about that on the previous podcast. You know, I was working basically 8 hours a day, Saturday and Sunday, and that was what they called on call. It was terrible. So I've already been living this situation right here for, God, I don't even know how long it was. It was probably something like 10 years. It's murderous on your health, on your self-esteem, on your relationships, everything. It's an awful place to be in. I can see how this affects us all mentally. These are major issues that we need to address. We're working ourselves to death. We're working rather than being. And if you can't sit there and be a person and instead you are a worker drone, it definitely affects your mental health. And it's all circular. It all comes back to itself, right? Man, I'm having flashbacks. I got PTSD here.
But when there is little to no work to do because a project has just been completed or sales are seasonally slow, workers are still expected to put in the 40 hours a week because that's what the business is paying them for. If you're in this kind of job, your best option is to try and find something that makes you look busy.
Yeah.
But if you don't have something to work on, you are probably going to be given meaningless tasks just to fill the mandatory 8-hour day. If this was just another story about companies screwing over their workers with outdated business practices, it wouldn't need a video. But the 40-hour work week isn't even good for companies. So it's time to learn how money works to find out why we might be in the midst of the overdue collapse of the 9-to-5. This week's lesson was sponsored by Manscaped. It's time to throw away that bulky beard trimmer you've been using for years and make an upgrade, because Manscaped is going full head-to-toe grooming with their Beard Hedger Pro Kit. With a powerful 7,200 RPM motor and titanium-coated T-blade, this trimmer is strong enough to tackle the thickest of hair you'll find on your face, neck, and chest. Whether you prefer a 5 o'clock shadow or a tame lion's mane, it comes with 20 precision length settings so you can customize your perfect beard length and style. This beard trimmer is waterproof and cordless, so it's a great tool for trimming in the shower or over the sink with virtually no messy cleanup. It gets up to 60 minutes of charge and has a 3-level charge indicator letting you know when it needs some juice. Manscaped also created dermatologist-tested beard care products to help you grow and nourish a wonderful beard like beard oil, beard balm, beard conditioner, and more. Get your hands on the Beard Hedger Pro. Head over to manscaped.com/howmoneyworks today and get 20% off plus free shipping when you use promo code HMW at checkout. Join over 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped today. According to data from the U.S. Census Bureau, McKinsey & Company, and compiled by Statista, growth in gig work and freelance jobs have outgrown typical permanent jobs by 500% over the last decade. Gig work apps have become very popular with unskilled workers due to their low barrier to entry and flexible working arrangements. Someone with a phone and a bike can start working for a food delivery service like Uber Eats, Postmates, DoorDash, Grubhub, or all of them all at the same time in less than an hour by filling out an online form. This has been a highly appealing alternative to minimum wage jobs that still rely on the antiquated process of handing in a resume, spending
Antiquated, for sure. These gig jobs, I was thinking about this, I did watch this video earlier. One thing that, he doesn't talk about is, what if we turned all jobs into gig jobs? Say bars were gig jobs instead of, being bars, and your bartender wasn't the same bartender every time. And you made it a competitive market like Uber is right now. Where you have to sign on, and then you would go to whatever bar you got signed on to. That sounds kind of wacky right now, but it's basically what we turned taxi cabs into. Would it make for a better experience or a worse experience? And also, would it make for a better pay or worse pay? Because it seems like only bartenders would only sign up, on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Actually, not even, Sunday if it's football season. Yeah, that kind of brings things into perspective, really, if you think about it that way.
Doing job interviews only to still get ghosted by a fast food joint offering $7.25 an hour for an unpredictable schedule.
Yeah.
Gig work jobs usually also pay terribly, but people get to work as much as they want, when they want, and they can work around another full-time job for extra money. Even with all of the problems of gig work, you can see why it has become so popular. The popularity of freelancing and private contracting has also exploded. This is more popular among skilled workers who can sell their services to businesses just like an employee, but with no ongoing agreement. They are only paid when there is work to be done. Private contracts are usually an agreed-upon price for an agreed-upon outcome, like $10,000 to build a company website, but they can also be billed hourly for roles like security, administrative assistants, or on-demand workers. According to a report by the management consulting firm Oliver Wyman, healthcare workers have been one of the fastest-growing groups of workers ditching typical permanent roles in favor of working as private contractors. On-call nurses, doctors, and hospital support staff already work unpredictable hours, so they don't sacrifice much by working as contractors instead of a direct employee. According to the report, some nurses have elected to work in the temporary staffing market so they can take on fewer hours, as mental health has become a top priority for workers in the industry. Private contractors in all industries are usually paid more for their time than permanent employees because the business only pays for the hours of services they actually need, which means most of the time their total out-of-pocket will be lower. With mass layoffs dominating the news cycle, people are also finding out the hard way that if they work in an at-will employment state, their 9-to-5 doesn't give them much security anyway. So, workers at all skill levels are seeing they can make more.
Employment.
And businesses are realizing that
can
they
be
can cut down
fired.
on expenses by doing away with the rigid 9-to-5 workday, which is the second reason it's slowly becoming a relic of corporate history. But the death of the 9-to-5 is not going to be a good deal for everybody. Unfortunately for now, businesses are going to be the biggest winners out of this shift, even if they have to pay their contractors and gig workers slightly more per hour. The first loss is benefits. If you work as a private contractor, you are becoming your own boss, which means that even though you are making more money, there is overhead that you become responsible for. benefits like paid time off, training, retirement plans, accounting, and health insurance are going to come out of your pocket. Health insurance through a regular employer is normally far more affordable than private options. For gig workers, this can be especially tough because health insurance premiums for people who ride motorized scooters through late-night traffic to deliver food to people's homes is simply unaffordable on the income of a delivery driver. Even if you are doing highly skilled contracting, if you don't manage these expenses carefully, you will end up with less in your pocket than if you just stuck with a regular permanent position. And your loss is their gain.
Absolutely
According to
true.
a survey conducted by Forbes, small and medium enterprises were hiring more contract workers because it simplified their accounting and reduced the ever-increasing expenses of human resource management. It's not just small companies either. According to CNBC, contract workers have outnumbered direct employees at Google and other large tech companies since 2018. And the ratio became even more skewed during COVID. Google already has large human resources and accounting departments, so they are pursuing contract work for two other reasons. The first is that the most talented engineers have realized that they can make more money working off one-off projects for lots of companies than they could by being a full-time employee with just one company. The demand for talent during the good times meant that these companies just had to pay what these top engineers were asking. Some highly specialized engineers could bill up to $10,000 an hour for their work to these companies. Even for a company as rich as Google, it was better to pay them only for the hours. They really needed them. Instead of paying them millions of dollars a year,
you're
as a
gonna pay
permanent
people
salary
for
the odd project.
This is called paying people what they're worth. Like, and in the same aspect, in the same aspect is getting what you're worth, because, like you said, sitting there and getting paid $19-20 an hour is nice. Now, when nothing is happening, you're getting paid still $19-20 an hour, and the company sees itself as losing. Now, turn around, that same company will go and hire these motherfuckers at like $200 an hour, and just be like, okay, well, as long as you're doing this project for this specific amount of time, then you can charge me $200 an hour. Is that great? They get 5 times the salary in like a minuscule amount of the time that you would work to do that same job. I've seen it happen at my own job, not my current job, my previous job. It does happen, and you wonder why these people are getting paid exuberant amounts. It's because they've figured out how to monetize their time, rather than doing it in a monetization way of Uber, where you get nothing and the company gets everything. I'm sorry if that sounded confusing.
Their skills would be needed. The second reason is that during bad times, like right now, getting rid of contractors doesn't count as layoffs, so companies can easily cut expenses without technically laying off any staff. Big layoffs signal to investors and other employees that the business is in a bad shape, and that they would be better off investing their money or building a career somewhere else. There are 3 groups that are really going to benefit from the death of the 9-to-5, but their gain is all at the expense of one big group that statistically you are a part of: the regular workers. Entry-level workers who can get gig
I'm a
work
regular
are not
worker.
paid well,
Oh no.
but they weren't paid well
Not
in minimum
me.
wage jobs either. They have just gained some flexibility to work when they want. High-skilled workers who can move to contract roles can make a lot of money by working for the highest bidding company. They only lost the idea of job security that never really existed for them anyway. Companies are also taking full advantage of the death of the 9-to-5 by cutting down on their biggest expense center. The losers are regular workers right in the middle who are in roles that can't be gigified but aren't in demand enough to be contracted out. The fixed expenses of operating as a contractor, health insurance, business licensing, accounting, and everything else means it's only worth it for people earning well over the average wage. If you are earning $60,000 as a permanent employee, you would have to charge $80,000 a year as a contractor to break even. And not many businesses are going to pay that $20,000 premium for a standard job. New regulations intended to protect contractors and workers are another problem. If a contractor files for unemployment after their job is completed with a company, they can file an SS-8 form with the IRS, which can trigger an audit to determine if that contractor and other contractors working for the company meet the requirements to be counted as a permanent employee. If they do, then the company has to cover their unemployment benefits and has to provide other benefits to every other contractor in the business as well. Businesses don't want to take that risk, so they use staffing agencies to handle all the compliance for them. According to data from the American Staffing Association, most contractors now work through middleman staffing companies. For contractors working through these middlemen, it can combine all of the problems of permanent employment with none of the benefits of being a private contractor. And that's the third reason why the 9-to-5 is going extinct. It lets companies pull some creative business maneuvers. The aged care industry has been one of the biggest victims of this shift. Go and watch my latest video on the deadly monetization of nursing homes to see how contract staffing is being used as a tool to maximize returns on a failing business model. As someone who's done contracting work time to time in the finance space, I will be writing an article on how to make the most out of these
Yeah, that's a good video. I like that video. Alright, I don't know, man. I've been on for 2 hours. I'm kind of tired. I'm going to end it here. It wasn't the greatest comeback stream, but it was a stream, so it is what it is. Yeah, we'll do better next time. Hopefully I'll be better next time. But I do enjoy this. Hopefully I can get on at a better time in the future. And continue to oh god, that hurts my neck. Well, talk about the mainstream media and everything that's going on, because yeah, there's a lot of bullshit we gotta get through. Anyway, later.